you got to think about the things that we do. How innovative are we actually being once someone ages out of the age of 13 or even 18? Not very at all. And I've told you guys a story. For me, the thing that blew me away as I started getting into doing pub theology was I was like, okay, wait a second. I've never done this. I don't think you can do this. I think this is against the rules. And currently in the denomination I went it was against the rules. Like, I don't think you can go into a bar and like play secular music and then hang out with people and entertain them for hours. And then I don't think they're going to want to give money to charity. And I don't know that they're going to want to hear about Jesus. And like, I don't know if they want to engage in like Jesus conversations, right? I mean, they're like bad people. They don't go to church. And then for 13 years, what I realized is, wait a second, Jesus has been at the bar waiting for some Christians to show up and tell people the good news for a long time. But we didn't get innovative enough about it because we didn't think it was a necessity.
Created on purpose and for purpose.
Everybody, welcome back to the Darren Earlewine podcast, and stoked to be back with you. I am your host, Darren Earlewine, as always, and here at the home studio. Hope you guys are enjoying some of these different looks and what we're doing here from the home studio. We've had some technical difficulties. If you're a subscriber on YouTube and you watch the podcast a lot from there, you may have noticed, or you're noticing that things look a little different. We're trying to figure out all the technical things to make it as crisp and clear and full HD as it should be. If you're an audio listener, you're probably like, I don't know what you're talking about, and that's okay. Stay right there. No big deal. But stoked to be with you guys again today. And I just want to take a minute before we jump in. And I want to thank everybody that financially partners with us here at Blackbird Mission. Everything we do, it's part of Darren Earlewine podcast and Spiritual DNA and our work in schools and in prisons and in churches is all underneath, as well as pub theology. It's all under the umbrella of Blackbird Mission, which is a nonprofit we started over a decade ago. And we have a group of folks that support us monthly because of the value that we add to their life, the value that we add to the world. And I don't think I say thank you enough for those people. And then next to that, what I want to say is if you find value, if we're adding value to your life and what we do with our resources, whether it's books or the podcast or course, love for you to pray about joining us financially. You get more information about that at blackbirdmission.com/give. And we love our monthly supporters and sponsors, and they allow us to keep doing this, to awaken people to become who God's created to be all over the nation, all over the world. So just wanted to say a quick thank you and a short invitation to join us if you find value in what we're putting out there in the world. And right now we are in a series. We've been in a series talking about the connection of faith in business, where the idea of mission and the marketplace come together. Something that I've always been really passionate about. And even more so right now, I just continue to sense that God is nudging me to take deeper steps into that world. And we'll be talking about that a little in this episode. And then in the next episode, I'm going to unpack a little bit about what we're getting ready to launch, a new business out of Blackbird Mission that's going to do our best to take this message as deeply into the marketplace as we can and find what I'm calling rogue type leaders that we could develop and then really inspire and equip them to become everything God's created them to be, but to make a major difference in the marketplace. And in this episode, I want to look at the idea of the need for it, the necessity, and how essential this is. And so if this podcast needed a topic, or not a topic, it needed a title, it would be called The Unimaginative Missionary. So I think this is episode 159, and it's called The Unimaginative Missionary. And here's why, is I think that there is a massive deficit of imagination in all of our lives. And when it comes to the idea of seeing the mission of Jesus go forward, I think both in sacred and in secular places, we have a massive, massive deficit of imagination. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you hear me use that phrase often, and it's because I think the reality is it's an epidemic in my opinion. And what I've been doing is some study that I want to share with you today that I think it's connected to what we find and what we feel, what we think is essential or necessary for our life to truly flourish, for us to become who we were born to be, which we talk about a ton. Okay. And here's why is if you're listening to the podcast and you're a follower of Jesus, then I'm speaking directly to you. If you're curious about faith, maybe you stumbled upon the podcast through a lot of different, maybe me speaking somewhere at a company or somewhere that you're connected to, and you're feeling it out. You wouldn't call yourself a follower of Jesus yet, then this doesn't completely apply to you, but it could be, we got to kind of pull back the curtain of what I would love for you to consider if that's a decision you're going to make. And here's what it comes down to. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're a part of a commissioned community. There's lots of communities, okay? You can be a part of, a bowling community. You can be a part of a golfing community. You can be a part of a basket weaving community. I don't know if there's still those are still out there or not. Maybe you can be a part of a lot of communities that can do and exist for certain reasons. We as followers of Jesus are part of a community called the body of Christ, and we are a commissioned community, meaning we have a mission to fulfill. We have a mission to fulfill, and that's a co-mission, meaning there's a mission, the word co, right, with. We have a mission that we're on with Jesus. And one of the last things he says to his disciples, right, his community that started this whole thing that we have called the church, if you will. The last thing he says to them is in Matthew 28, and he says this, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. That's the Great Commission. That's what he's given us. And the great news is he's with us to fulfill this always. We're never alone in this. But that is our mission, to actually go. And if you're in the marketplace, you might say develop people. If you're in the sacred space of the church, you would say we're here to disciple people. That is what we exist to do. That's our mission. And the question is for you and for me to answer is, how necessary do we feel like that is to our life? Do we feel like developing or discipling other people is essential for me to fulfill the missions God's given me? Another thing Jesus says about us is not only but we're his witnesses. In Acts chapter 1, as the church is about to launch with the gift of the Holy Spirit, Jesus says it like this, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. So this mission is about us being witnesses to who Jesus is, and then even more importantly, who he is to us, what he's done, and we have seen him do in and through our lives. We're to be a witness to others, to invite them in to this amazing relationship that Jesus provides for us. And once again, the simple question is, how necessary is it for you to be a witness in your life? Like, is that this is essential, this is necessary, or is it that's something that some people do, like missionaries do? That's what pastors do. That's what, people that are really, really a part of this thing, or people that maybe they're perfect, or whatever the thought is when you wake up every morning, when you go to bed every night, is there a sense that I am on a mission and it is necessary and essential for me to develop other people and to be a witness of what Jesus has done, what Jesus is doing in my life, and what Jesus will one day do for all people? And here's my guess, my educated guess, is that the majority of people who follow Jesus don't think that is essential for them. And it may be because they don't feel equipped to do it, maybe because they don't feel educated enough to do it. I know it's because they feel really unprepared to do it. We can have a lot of excuses, a lot of things we bring in there, but I think for the majority of us, we don't feel like that is necessary or essential to our relationship with Jesus. I think we see it as optional, or if you can do it, it's kind of a bonus. But I think if you look at what Jesus says as he's launching this whole deal, and he's laying out the framework of it, he doesn't say, therefore, go if you feel equipped enough. Therefore, go if you've done really well. Therefore, go if you've gone to church a bunch. Therefore, go if you have you feel like you're an extrovert, you like talking to people, It's easy. There's really no wiggle room there, right? He was like, therefore go and you will all be my witnesses and I'll give you power to do it. And I'm going to be with you, helping you do it all the time. Not a lot of wiggle room there for what we're called to, for what we're commissioned to do, right? The word necessary, it means the basic requirements of life. If you look at the definition of the word essential, it means absolutely necessary or extremely important. It is necessary and essential for us to take the good news about Jesus, about what he's done, about what he is doing, about what he's going to do, and be witnesses to that, to help other people be developed and or discipled. Okay, we can use either word, to become who they were created to be, to actually live a life that flourishes, to live a life that is virtuous, to live a life that they want to actually live. And if we take this good news down, right, I say it every week on the podcast, and it's purposeful, is because what I try to do is make the gospel, which literally means good news, as accessible and tangible to you and to me. So because of the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus and everything that he did, everything that he said, everything that he taught, right, and who he is, here's the good news. Here's the good news. God is for you. He's not against you. That's good news, really good news. And it's not just good news for you. It's good news for every human beings. God is not against you. God is actually for you. Okay, that's good news. Here's the next good news. God is near you. He's not far away. And on top of that, right, what Jesus just promised is that he could actually be within you, that he would send his spirit to give you power, right? And this spirit would give you a spirit of power and of love and of self-discipline. This is good news. I'm not alone, right? God's not some far off deity around the corner of Pluto or Neptune or something doing other things. No, he's near to me. He's actually within me. This is really good news. And it should translate to good news every day of your life that you could actually share with someone. Last thing is this. Because of who Jesus is, because of what he's done, because of what he's doing, because of what he's going to do, here's the great news. Okay. God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. You're not an accident. You make sense. You are specifically, divinely designed for a mission to fulfill, meaning your life has hope, your life has meaning, your life has purpose. This is really, really good news. And it should show up, right, in the way we interact with people, whether we're at work, whether we're at church, whether we're at play. This is what it means to be a witness to what that truth is doing in your life. The question is, once again, do we feel like communicating that and even developing other people to understand it is necessary or essential? The fact that most of the time when people are asked statistically, the stats are well over 80, multiple times, a lot of times in different research studies, over 90% of followers of Jesus say, I've never led anyone else to follow Jesus. And I would say if they were asked specifically, have you ever discipled or developed someone else in the relationship with Jesus, the number would be the same, if not potentially worse. So well over half of us, well over 80% of us, the stats say, right, and my lived experience with people says, we don't think this is necessary or essential. We think it's an add-on. And I think that is the base level reason why we're not very imaginative or innovative on how we actually try to do it. And I think this lack of imagination is an epidemic in the church, and I think it's an epidemic in the marketplace, right? In all spheres of life. And what happens, I think, is when we think it's an add-on, we forget how essential it is to life for all of us. Right? Famous quote from Henry David Thoreau, right? He says this: the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. Without that good news, the mass of humanity is living a life of quiet desperation. And we see that. Our world is broken. It's jacked up. It's not working well at all. We're finding everything we possibly can to meet that need, to take that sense of quiet desperation out, right? We choose people, we choose things, we choose popularity, we choose power, we choose sex, we choose a lot of things in our life. I'm going to try to find everything I can to take away this sense of quiet desperation, this resignation of life. I'm not flourishing. I'm not living a vital life. I don't have hope or love or peace or patience. Like these things are eluding me. And I just need someone, if they found an answer, if they found something that actually takes this away, this is necessary for my life. This is essential for my life. I need this to live. And I think oftentimes we step into this in a Christian situation, we begin to find this in Jesus, and we go, man, this is so great for me. I am so glad that I have this. And I think the longer we stay maybe in an insulated Christian environment, we're like, yeah, everybody has it, right? Because everybody I know, they seem to have it. And I think even church culture hurts us in this, because it's like, hey, once you come to faith, you got to back away from your old non-Christian friends, and got to get yourself in a good, safe, family-friendly environment. You know what I mean? And be careful of the word. The world could pollute you. It's bad. It's negative. And so just circle the one, stay in your little Christian bubble, and wait for Jesus to come back. And the longer we do that, I think it even exacerbates the situation where we forget that those who don't know who Jesus is, what he's done, and what he's going to do, they're living a life of quiet desperation. They're living a life where they don't have the necessities and the things that are essential for life. And we have tricked ourselves to believe that us sharing it is not necessary or essential for us. And I think when we can jump over that hurdle and get back to the place of reclaiming the essential nature of the mission, right, and the necessity of it, what will happen is we will begin to see a new wave of innovation of how that goes on. We go all the way back to Plato, right? Now we're going deep in the well of history, right? Well-known bit of wisdom from Plato here is necessity is the mother of innovation. He said it another way. He said, our need will be the real creator. Necessity is the mother of innovation. So when you get something that you go, this is absolutely necessary, you will find ways to innovate, to become very imaginative, to be able to move into actually meeting this need. This would make sense, right? If you can't breathe, you're going to get as innovative as you possibly can to fix this situation. Because guess what's necessary to you? Breathing. Okay. If you don't have anything to eat, you will become very innovative and very imaginative of what could I consume so I don't die. When we are pressed to need the necessities of life, we become very inventive, we become very imaginative, we become very motivated. And so when I see that we're not doing that, I'm saying that for us, the majority of us, fulfilling and finding our place within the mission of Jesus is not necessary for us. We see it as optional. This is what I want to dig into today. Before we do, I want to just take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. A quick commercial break here on the podcast. I want to tell you a story about a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago with a faithful podcast listener like yourself. We started talking about spiritual DNA, the online course that I've created that helps you discover who you were born to be. And I said, hey, have you gone through spiritual DNA yet? And I'm assuming they listen to the podcast, like, hasn't everyone gone through spiritual DNA? They said, you know what? No, I haven't. And I said, well, why not? They said, I haven't gotten around to it yet. But I really want to discover who God's created me to be. So if that's you, today's your day. Here's what you need to do. I need you to go to DarrenEarlewine.com/spiritual DNA. That's where you can get the course, and I want to give you a discount because you're part of the podcast family. So once you go to buy the course, go to the promo code and use promo code podcast. You're going to get 20% off the course today. All right? That's your next step. Do it. DarrenEarlewine.com/spiritual DNA. Use promo code podcast and start your journey today to discover who you were born to be. All right, let's get back to the episode. And we're back. Love it. Got the sound effects back. I mean, I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. I know I do. I'm going to see if I can bring it back in later here. We need more sound effects in this. Back from the commercial break, we're talking about how necessity actually drives innovation. So when necessity meets imagination, great things happen. Sort of. Great things can happen. What also happens is this: people begin to doubt and we begin to face resistance. Okay. Some other great quotes for some really smart people. Albert Einstein says this. He says, imagination is more important than knowledge. And a lot of times for me, when I think imagination, it immediately moves into a spiritual realm for me. Because if I believe that God is the creator of the universe, and I believe that I'm made in his image, and I believe that I have his spirit within me, that means that when I'm becoming a very imaginative, what it means is in creative, if you will, it means that God's spirit is at work in my life. So you say, Darren, I can't really do what you asked me to do because I don't have a lot of knowledge. Well, here's the deal. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Irwin says it this way, right? That creativity is the natural result of spirituality. So the more that I'm growing in God's spirit, who Jesus has promised he's going to actually help me do this, and I'm going to be empowered by the Holy Spirit, then I can begin to move in a place of creativity and imagination about how I could actually make a difference developing or discipling other people. And the great part is that's actually more important than how much knowledge I have. In the actual discipleship part of things, right? The reality is most of us have been following Jesus for a little bit. We know way more than we obey. And so if we found somebody that didn't know anything, we have plenty of knowledge to help them take their next step of understanding how to follow Jesus. Another thing that Albert Einstein thing, I like this one here. It says this: you can't solve a problem on the same level that it was created. You have to rise above it to the next level. I read it again. You can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. You have to rise above it to the next level. So we have a problem. We're not actually doing the mission of God in the marketplace and in the church. And we can't stay at this same level trying to fix this issue. We have to rise above it. We have to say, God, you know what? I'm going to need your spirit to give me an imagination that's above what I've seen, above what I've experienced, above what I may even think is possible to actually solve this problem. And our calling, right, is to never stop innovating on the ways we can help people experience the gospel of Jesus so they can become what they were born to be. It's not an option. This is what it's about, right? They say, yeah, well, Darren, here's my problem. The problem is this. I've thought about it. The reality is this, is Jesus doesn't work on adults anymore. I don't know if you know this, Darren. I read a book. Tells me that 90% of people or whatever it is, right, that make a decision for Jesus do so before the age of 13. And so I know you get the podcast and you do the pub thing and whatever else, and you talk to people around the country, but I know people just don't make decisions for Jesus anymore after they're 13 years old. I think that is wrong. That may be statistically correct, but it's not because Jesus doesn't work on adults anymore. And it's not because people aren't interested in the good news to help them actually flourish in their life. I think it's because as the church, we stop being innovative and creative at the age of 13. Right? Think about the difference here. You're in junior high. I have a junior higher. He's 13. Okay. When he gets invited to something that has some kind of church thing. Okay. Here's the level that a youth ministry would go to. Like, you know what? Let's just talk about summer camp. Okay. Hey, dude, we're going to camp this summer. Oh, we're going camping. Yeah, we're going to camp. Okay. Love camping. Hey, guess what? A week away from your parents. No parents, camping. Guess what? Cute girls. Oh, really? So we have no parents. We have camping. We have cute girls. Yeah, and there's cool music. And guess what? We have a lake, and there's a zip line, and there's going to be bonfires, and we're going to do that. Like we go all out. Here's how creative we're going to get. Oh, and guess what? Every afternoon you're going to just have free time. Right? All the stress you have of trying to get good grades and all your travel sports and everything that stresses you down. Listen, let me invite you into a peaceful week-long getaway without your parents, food, bonfires, bands, zip lines, swimming, and tons of free time. Like, that's how creative we get just on a week of camp. And it's amazing. Guess what happens? A bunch of kids come to faith at camp. We can go through a lot of different things that we get creative. We're going to have this party. We're going to have this thing. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a 100-foot banana split. And we have all these creative ideas, conferences, all kinds of stuff. And then people age out of high school. So they're no longer in youth group. And this is basically the invitation we give people. Hey, we got a thing happening at my church this Friday night. What do you got planned? Well, Friday night's bowling night. Oh, you love bowling? Yeah, that's my community. I'm with these guys and we love it. I bowl every Friday. I've been doing it for 10 years. Yeah, well, hey, guess what? Not this Friday, because we got something special at church. I know usually when you're heading to go bowl, you're probably thinking to yourself, gosh, I really wish the church had a special event Friday night that I could make it to, and leave everybody that I know and trust and have spent years with and go meet a bunch of people I don't know. I know. But listen, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be our church. And we're going to sit and listen to somebody speak. So it's pretty cool. Like we do that on Sundays, but we're going to do it on a Friday night now. So you're not going to do what you really like to do. You're going to come to the church. Oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to dress up a little bit because it's church, right? So wear uncomfortable clothes, something you wouldn't regularly wear on a Friday night. Come meet people you don't really know. We're going to listen to a guy talk. We're going to probably sing some songs you don't know, done by artists that you have no idea with. And then we're going to hang out afterwards at the church and it's a thing we call fellowship, where we don't actually do anything, but just kind of hang out, but we'll be doing it at the church. So like, was it like a bonfire or do we do some fishing or is there like some kind of cool act? No, just none of that. Was there beer? No. Margaritas? No, absolutely not. Right. All the stuff that you regularly have in your life, we're not going to. No, we don't do that. You got to come and do everything that we do and then act like you like it. Right. And I'm not trying to be super negative and I'm not glorifying beer. We don't have to drink beer. I'm just saying you got to think about the things that we do. How innovative are we actually being once someone ages out of the age of 13 or even 18? Not very at all. And I've told you guys a story. For me, the thing that blew me away as I started getting into doing pub theology was I was like, okay, wait a second. I've never done this. I don't think you can do this. I think this is against the rules. And currently in the denomination I went it was against the rules. Like, I don't think you can go into a bar and like play secular music and then hang out with people and entertain them for hours. And then I don't think they're going to want to give money to charity. And I don't know that they're going to want to hear about Jesus. And like, I don't know they want to engage in like Jesus conversations, right? I mean, they're like bad people. They don't go to church. And then for 13 years, what I realized is, wait a second, Jesus has been at the bar waiting for some Christians to show up and tell people the good news for a long time. But we didn't get innovative enough about it because we didn't think it was a necessity. When we begin to think things are a necessity, I think the stats that we talk about are going to be able to change. You say, well, Darren, that's fine in the church, but I can't do that. I run a business. I mean, you know that we can't talk about spiritual things at work. That's not how things work around here. I mean, I don't want to get sued. Well, you can't make people follow Jesus to get a job where you employ people. But I've never seen any rule against you actually holistically helping develop the people that you employ. Well, yeah, I mean, I could do that, but I mean, I've never seen that done. I don't know how to do that. Like, I'd have to come up with some kind of innovative approach of how do I actually help develop people holistically, like mind, body, and spirit, to become everything they were created to be. How do I actually help people feel seen and known and affirmed and loved? I'm just trying to get people to do their job here. I know. And what that means is what you have seen as a necessity is people doing their job. What you haven't yet seen as the necessity is that person flourishing in every element of their life. And if you're a business leader, you have access to these people for over 40 hours a week, for sometimes 40 years. And you're showing up there as a missionary of the movement of Jesus, empowered by the Holy Spirit, with God helping you do this, and access to the most brilliant, imaginative, creative source on the planet. And I think my gut is, and what I think I'm about to bet my life on, okay, is that if I say this is absolutely essential, that people need to be developed to become who God created them to be in every sphere and element of their life, that God's going to give me some innovative ideas to actually make that happen. Because guess what? He actually wants to make it happen, and he still works on adults, and he still reaches people in the marketplace. Over the past year, I've been doing more work developing people in the marketplace. And you know what keeps happening every time I coach somebody and develop somebody, whether it's an individual or a team? People say, hey, man, I'd really like to grow my faith. This is something I really have thought about for a long time, and I haven't had anybody that could really help me do it. There's the need there, because guess what? The mass of humanity is living a life of quiet desperation, and it's our opportunity to bring the good news that they don't have to, that there is a way to become who they were born to be. They were created on purpose and for a purpose. They're not alone in this thing. God is near them, and he's not against them. He's really, really for them, and in a beautiful way. And so I'm just keep stepping into this. And what I want to inspire you to do is just ask yourself, how necessary is it for me? How essential do I think this is in my life? And if the answer is not very, then I think it's time to do some soul searching. I think it's time for you to ask God, begin changing my heart, begin to give me a passion for what you're passionate about, and then take control of my imagination and help me begin to dream up creative, even fun ways that I might be able to be a part of developing and or discipling people. This is where I'm at. This is why we did this past series of this podcast. This is what you're going to hear a little bit more about next episode, and what I'm going to begin giving my life to over the next couple of years, maybe decade. I don't know how long this adventure is going to go, because the longer I follow Jesus, the more I'm convinced that this is the essential way that I have to live my life. And what I keep noticing is, as I do what Jesus told me to do, he shows up and does things that I could have never imagined were possible. And I don't think I'm special. I think I'm just being somewhat obedient. Like, I'm not even doing a great job at it. And here's what I would love. I would love for a movement of us to become what I'm calling rogue leaders. That maybe you would join this thing I'm getting ready to launch, I'll tell you about next week, called the Rogue Collective. And see if we can't start actually finding rogue leaders, inviting them into a community, and seeing them begin to create the future that's on God's heart and God's mind. One awakened, developed, discipled, choose what word you want at a time. I think it's out there. I think God's waiting for some of us to step into it and join him in what he's already doing. And that's my thought today and my challenge to you. And can't thank you enough for downloading these episodes, for being a part of this podcast community. Would love to hear your thoughts. I'm not kidding about that. I say this all the time. You can text me, 317-550-5070. You can email me, Darren@blackbirdmission.com, or reach out and DM me through any of the socials. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this challenge, on how essential and necessary this is. I'd love to hear from you what you feel like maybe some of your hurdles of why it hasn't become necessary or essential. And then that can help me know how to develop some more content that might help you take your next step. Because I'm not here just to bust your chops. I really do want to develop and disciple you to become who you were created to be. And that is a witness. That is a missionary. That is an innovative, creative developer, discipler of other people. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Thanks for downloading this episode. And until we talk again, remember, God's for you, not against you. He's near you, not far away. And he has created you on purpose and for a purpose. And that is really good news. Talk to you guys next time, right here on the Darren Earlewine podcast.